Welcome to Elevate, a podcast where we sit down with the women shaping workplace culture as some of the biggest names in the business. These are the leaders navigating change, putting people first, and keeping teams connected and engaged every single day. Elevate is brought to you by Line Zero, a global employee experience consultancy firm that partners with organizations to create connected workplaces. Tune in to learn how today's leaders are breaking barriers and building cultures where employees truly thrive.
I am your host, Joy Fajardo. Welcome back to Elevate. Today, I am joined by Khai Jones, and there's a lot to her story. For nearly 20 years, she's been leading a foundation or at-risk youth, not as a side project, but alongside every role for promotion of her industry shift since 2006. That alone tells you a lot about who she is. She's built HR in environments most people leaders never get exposure to, and each one has shaped how she leads today. Now she's stepping into the VP of Employee Experience role at GoDaddy, grounded in a belief she's carried throughout her career. People grow when someone truly sees them, invests in them, and means it. Khai, welcome to Elevate. I'm really glad that you're here with us today.
So excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
All right, so I know that our viewers are super excited, so let's just get straight into it.
Let's do it.
So you started as a business analyst at Humana. Take me back to that moment. When did you realize that people work was actually where you were meant to be?
Yeah, so I don't even know that it was then, to be totally honest, but I kind of fell into working at Humana. I think coming out of my undergrad program, I said, okay, what is a great company that's close by, that I can, really kick off my career. And I had this opportunity to join Humana. And I first started out in like benefits and claims. And then shortly after that, moved into human resources. Thought, this is interesting. This is fun. I'm enjoying the work. But I had always had great mentors who told me, don't commit too early, really learn the business and figure out where you want to be. And I would say that I really didn't figure out that HR was going to be my thing until I joined Intel. And I had an opportunity to join a GM program. And from there, I was like, okay, my sweet spot is both business strategy and people strategy. And I really like the more of the people strategy side. And so that's really where I want to concentrate my career. So, but Humana kind of started it all because that was really my first entry point into human resources.
Interesting thing is that, and you actually made that pivot, you committed. Like nearly 9 years in manufacturing company is not dipping your toe in. That's really deep education in very specific world. So as I've mentioned, 9 years in manufacturing, operation first culture, a workforce that shows up in steel toes. That's not where most HR careers started, right? But what did that environment teach you about employees that you couldn't have learned anywhere else?
I think that a couple of things. So number one, Cummins, such an amazing history, the leadership, how the company was founded. And really, it's this company that born and bred in Columbus, Indiana, in the Midwest, and then became this truly global organization. And outside of the walls of Cummins, right, thinking about Columbus, Indiana, now the company has spread to Indianapolis and beyond in the state. And just like all of that was really the foundation and the culture of Cummins as a company. And what I learned is that every single role matters. People's experiences matter. And what I learned on the factory floor is that's where your product is made. As in manufacturing, that is where the product is made. And those individuals that are closest to the product, you want them to be working with love and with passion because that's really what drives business success. And I was so lucky to have that experience because number one, it taught me about the connection and how important it is to be connected with your people. And that's at every level of the organization. And still to this day, I do that. It doesn't matter if you are an admin or if you're working in our cafeteria or if you are the CEO of the company. I want to have those conversations about your experience and what that looks like so that I can be a better HR business partner. So that's one of the things that it taught me. And I think the other thing is just really staying true to your roots. And having that North Star in terms of your values and what's important to you. and being able to represent that in even the toughest times, right? So from J. Irwin Miller, who many people know and love, just who he was as a person, the impact that he had on the city and on the state, the impact that he had on so many lives and major social movements, including the civil rights movement. It's just so inspiring. And so to grow up in that kind of foundation, business foundation, was really critical to my success in business overall, but also in HR.
One thing that you mentioned that really stick to me is that every role matters, no matter what that role is. You really are very intentional getting into conversations with every role. In other words, you really had to earn the relationship. It didn't come for free just because you had that HR title or role. Sometimes that's something that is missed out. You've spoken recently about how important authenticity is to successful teaming. The word there for me is teaming. What actually happens when authenticity breaks down on a team? What does it look like in real life?
Yeah, I mean, I won't say that I love this terminology, but it does resonate, right? And I think quiet quitting. I think that it's that engagement. It is getting the best out of somebody. And it's the little things from how you dress or wear your hair, how you speak. We often talk about code switching and what that does to people mentally when you feel like you cannot be your authentic self. And mind you, of course, there is professionalism that is absolutely imperative in the workforce. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the authenticity of being able to bring your ideas, being able to articulate how you feel about something, feeling open and free to disagree with the mass. And so I think that what happens is that number one, you don't get your best out of your team because either people feel unsafe or they feel like they can't disagree and they might have an amazing idea that you never get to uncover because you've not created an environment to do so. And I think one of the tough things is like as you transition through your career, you've got to build that trust. You've got to earn it. It doesn't always come easily. Like you have to integrate yourself into new cultures and things like that. But the common theme is around authenticity. It is around being able to bring your full self, being able to bring great ideas. And yeah, it's really important.
That's a great point because I think that risk taking dies first when people don't feel safe. They stop racing the hard things. They, as you mentioned, you're not opposing, you're not telling openly your suggestions because you don't feel safe. So instantaneously, that will kill potentially great ideas.
Absolutely.
Now, creating the conditions for it is a completely different challenge than just saying you want it. You just spoke at Transform Her about growing people with intent, which feels like the same idea, but just with a slightly different language. Let's talk about that. Helping people grow with intent. Can you unpack that for me? What does intentional growth actually look like? And what's the opposite of it? I'm curious how Okadia see the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are two pieces to that, right? So one is for me as an individual and how I want to grow. And it doesn't mean necessarily like having your path completely figured out, but it does mean having those check-ins with yourself to say, here are the things that I love to do. Here are the things that I don't love to do. How am I going to approach that in my career? And you hear two different camps, right? One is around you need to maximize all of your best attributes. And the other one is, okay, well, you need to address your weaknesses, right? And get better there. And I think that there can be absolutely a good mix of both, but you do have to give your time and attention to one over the other. And so I think that that intentionality is really important for individuals. I think the other thing is having coached and sponsored many people across an organization has to be around that person's career. Like, what do you see in them? And is that aligned? Because there are times in which you want something different for somebody than what they want for themselves. Sometimes you're able to open their aperture in a way that it's like, oh, okay, I never really explored that. Yeah, that could be a good fit for me. And then other times it might be rooted or and grounded in something that maybe you haven't experienced with that individual, but it could say like, I don't want to take on a manager. It is not for me. or don't want to step into this type of role because that is not for me. And I think that intentionality also is really important in terms of how you put somebody forward, how you support them, how you coach them, how you grow them. And so that's the way that I think about intentionality on both sides, both for you as an individual and then also as a coach or mentor.
I love when you highlight the fact that not everyone is meant like manager. Sometimes it feels like everyone wants to get there, but in reality, it's not actually for everyone. Sometimes you just love doing what you do,
Yep.
the way that you do it, and not handle people. And the hard part there is if you are not very intentional, as you said, in knowing what people want, you might end up giving someone the managerial role when that's not actually what's going to make them happy. And that's not what's going to make them flourish in their career and in their personal like growth in general.
Yeah, and we see that all the time in especially technical environments. Like you might have an engineer who's an amazing engineer, and it's like, oh, well, this career path should go to management. And it's like, no, maybe they just want to be an individual contributor. They want to come up with an amazing idea or amazing ideas and continue to grow upon that. And so, again, that's why it's just really important to kind of key into that.
The thing is, making that work at scale with tens of thousands of employees with multiple geographies, you need some sort of infrastructure to hold it. The tools have to actually show up. I want to talk about the infrastructure next. The platforms and tools you use to keep people connected and informed really matters a lot, no matter how big or small an organization is, but more so when it's a like your a distributed team. What have you actually leaned on when you're evaluating any kind of technology, may it be for employee experience or internal communications tool? What are you really looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there are so many tools out there, which is great. I think that it's about flexibility and it's about this track record of innovation and shift and growth. And so, for any company, as an example, we're all working through the AI shift, and you have to be willing to work, or you have to be, if you are a provider, and a vendor, you have to be able to think through, okay, how does my business transform in the face of AI, as one example? So that's how individuals like myself are assessing different tools. It's saying, what can this tool offer me today? But then also, can it scale in the future? And what are the indicators that give me confidence and faith that it can scale? Because you don't know what the future looks like, right? And I would say 5, 10 years ago, we knew about AI, but we didn't know that it was going to explode in the way that it has today and how much it's changing the shape of how we work. And so, all of that being said, it's just really important to understand, can this scale? Am I seeing great indicators that tell me that we're on the cutting edge of technology, or that this organization or this vendor listens to their clients and their stakeholders and they respond and react to them? And so there's a million different tools that are out there in terms of connection, from email or instant messaging all the way to different mentoring platforms and things like that. And so I think that's the most important thing in terms of the partnership, is what can it offer today, and then also, can it scale?
I love that. Not just today, but thinking forward. How can it grow with me? How about in terms of culture? Is there anything that you're looking for, like the technology that we should use should match the culture or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a tough one because culture is evolving. And especially in these times, culture is constantly evolving. And so, building something to the culture of today, it's the same thing. Like, it has to be able to scale and you have to be able to shift. And I have been a part of organizations, as I talked about with Cummins, that have a very strong foundation, and the culture continues to grow and evolve. And it grows and evolves in a way that is still true to that organization. So, as an example, if what's important to you is giving all employees a voice, or what's important to you as an organization is making sure that people have growth and development opportunities, that can continue with you as an organization. Then you have other companies that like are changing and shifting, and maybe they started as like a small homegrown organization and now they've blown up to thousands of employees across multiple geographies, and you want the culture to change, right? Because say that the company started here in the US, but then now you've got employees all over the globe. You can't just have a US facing culture. You have to think about these other companies and or countries and how those are represented. And so I do think that from a cultural perspective, it's really important to make sure that you can still have the opportunity to grow and shift as well.
So the adoption actually goes both ways.
Yeah.
People should be able to adopt the tool, but the tool should also be able to adapt to the people as the organization shifts. I love that. Now, all of this, the career across 5 industry, the belief in intentional growth, the infrastructure to back it up, none of it just leaves at work for you. You've actually been the president of the Harena Days Jones Foundation since 2006. 20 years leading a nonprofit for at-risk kids, right alongside your full career. What has that work taught you about people, about potential, about what someone needs to actually thrive that you bring back into your work?
Yeah, so just a little bit about the foundations. My husband and I started the foundation, and the reason why we did is because sports and extracurricular activities were so important to us as we grew up. And we knew that kids having those opportunities is absolutely critical. And my husband grew up very poor, of a single mother. He has 6 siblings. And so not having the opportunity to really participate in as many extracurriculars, but he did get an opportunity to play football and to do drama and to also be in woodworking and other things through his school. And so what we said is that we want to enable those opportunities for kids because we know that that is critical to their growth and their development and their trajectory in life. And we wanted to remove any barriers that kids were facing in terms of being able to do that. So it's not just funding the activity itself, it's Uber rides if a kid is not able to get to and from practice or things like that. And so we've really thought outside the box and funded different initiatives and activities for this group of kids. So it's been an amazing experience. I think it keeps me grounded, and it's awesome being able to see now, right, 20 years ago when we had 5 and 6 year olds that we were putting into Pee Wee football that are now going off to college, and they've received scholarships from us and others. And so what a blessing to have been able to do this for as long as we've been able to do it. And to see the impact that it's made on kids' lives. And so we will continue to do it as long as physically possible to do so.
That commitment to giving people access and chances, it actually shows up everywhere in how you've built your career, right?
It,
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say it does. And it's so funny because I haven't really made that connection until we just talked about it. But yeah, it does.
Because I also read 7+ years, you're actually at the Upward Women Board too. You've consistently put yourself in spaces that are about opening doors, not just to kids, but also to women and just everyone. So you built your whole career in industries that were not designed with women like us in mind. Manufacturing, defense, semiconductors. What did you have to figure out on your own that nobody told you? And what do you wish someone had said earlier?
That's such a loaded question. I have learned that you have to be courageous. I've learned that my voice is important. Unlocking that for others, their voices are important, enabling that. I think that what I wish I would have known earlier is that it's okay to second guess yourself sometimes. You just got to kind of get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving. And I think for a lot of women, especially, sometimes you're dealt a blow and it's like, man, okay, how do I recover from this? What do I do? And we kind of stay in that space just a little bit too long. I think that we all go through it, men and women alike, but it's different when you look around and you see other people who look like you, right? It just kind of unlocks doors, or it gives you a different level of confidence to be able to persevere and to move forward. I think that's the key, is really about continuing to stay focused, When you have those moments, it's staying grounded and then it's getting back on track. And I learned this from somebody who I respect and admire so much. She would talk about this board of directors, her personal board of directors. And I love that. And I've adopted that in my career as well. Like you have your friend or your mentor that you go to when you're just having a crap day and they're able to keep it real with you. Then you have your mentors that you go to that are like, hey, I've got this really hard situation. I need to work through it. So you just have different people that serve different situations in your life. The intentionality behind that, there goes that word again, the intentionality behind who you put on your board of directors is really important because they help you get through those moments that are tough.
That's the first time I've heard about your own board of directors, but I think that's something that we should all have. Different specialties, you go for this person for something specific that you know he's already overcome in the past. And I love when you said that safety. When you feel like you're doubting yourself, it's fine. Because sometimes I feel like, is it my hormones? Is it me? And just generally, it's not just women, but women and men alike. We all have those moments. And going back to the board of directors, reach out to your mentors and figure out what's going on. Okay. So I'm going to shift one more time because this time I want to talk about AI. AI is reshaping what employee experience looks like, what we measure, what we automate, what we even expect from people at work. Where do you think this goes? And what is the part of employee experience that actually cannot be automated? What is irreducible about the human side of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think any of us know where it's going to go, right? Like every day there's a new learning. There's a couple steps forward. Some cases there's steps backwards. We think about data integrity. We think about tools, hallucinations. There's all kinds of things that are happening. And then we also see these amazing unlocks in terms of these manual tasks that have now become completely automated and kind of obsolete in terms of us having to intervene into certain processes. And so who knows where it's going to go? It's really interesting. I think that one thing, of course, that a tool cannot replicate is human connection. It's understanding, feeling someone's energy. It is being able to kind of pick up on what's happening in someone's career so that you can help them navigate differently. Now, of course, a tool can give you some coaching guidance. You can prompt it and say, hey, this happened at work today, or I have this thing that's coming up. But that magic that I just talked about in terms of like your personal board of directors, you can't replicate that in a tool. Right? That it's not always going to understand that context or see a facial expression where you're able to say, well, let me expand on that a little bit more, or let me kind of pivot and let me share this and let me add to that. And I think that how that shows up in work every day is just through things like problem solving. So if you're in a Kaizen, as an example, and you're coming up with, hey, like different approaches and kind of riffing off of one another, you can't replicate that in a tool. You can't replicate that magic of like the back and forth. Now, the same way that it's like some of the best ideas come from like a lunch conversation or grabbing drinks with coworkers after work. And so, I mean, I think that AI is amazing. I think that it's going to unlock a lot of capability for many individuals and for many companies. And I think that that human aspect of connection and of innovation, problem solving, growth, that's really what you are never going to be able to fully replace.
If AI handles the transactional stuff, the repeatable stuff, what's left for employee experience leaders is actually the hardest work, which is the human connection. It's complicated because every different human has a different way of feeling that level of connection. Similar with love languages. Different people have their own love languages. I think human connection is the same. Some people likes to be opposed because they want to see the opposite of what they're thinking, but some people likes to be agreed all the time. So yeah, I love that framing because the irreducible part, that's going to be the whole job now because now the repeatable task is taken off of our plate.
Yeah. And I mean, you just talked about some different processes, and it spurred me to think about like org redesign. And let's say that you're working with a leader and you have all of your org effectiveness metrics. And now you have to figure out, okay, like what does this look like from an org design perspective? We're never going to know about individuals, every single person's skill set and what they bring to the table. Those maybe things that are not always spoken, but just exude from a person as they're doing their work. Those are the things that you pick up on that, again, cannot be replicated. Like that's a part of the magic in terms of being able to guide leaders through major change or, strategic shifts or things like that. So, yeah, just another thought.
Thank you so much for sharing all of those with us, Kai. So, to our listeners, Kai started in data, not people. And that instinct to ask why before how has followed her through 20 plus years and five different, very different industries. Everywhere she's gone, the thread is the same. Growth only happens when someone actually sees you, invests in you, and means it. She has built that at scale for thousands of employees, and she has built it quietly for at risk kids for 2 decades running. That is not a philosophy she picked up at a conference, it is who she is. Now, before we close out, is there anything that you'd want to leave our listeners with that we haven't covered yet?
I don't think so. I think I just appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today, Joy, and to share a little bit about my story. I am on LinkedIn and I post often in terms of different experiences and then different things that I am up to outside of work. So feel free to follow me there. I'd love to follow you back. And again, thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kai. Folks, follow Kai on LinkedIn. She's got a lot of ideas and insights to share. So please do follow her. And Kai, this was the conversation I was hoping it would be even more. The way you talk about people, whether it's the foundation, the career, the work you do now, it all comes from the same place. So thank you for being this open. I really appreciate you. Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation got you thinking about how your organization connects with its people, how you communicate, how you build culture, or how you help employees do their best work, Line Zero can help you figure out what's next. We offer a personalized employee experience assessment to our podcast listeners, where our consultants will spend real time with you and your team to understand your employee experience ecosystem and the specific challenges you're navigating. You can learn more at linezero.com. The link is in the description. Give Kai a follow, as I've mentioned. She's worth adding to your feed. And also follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Line Zero for more conversations from the women who are transforming employee experience. Until then, keep elevating, keep inspiring, and let's keep building workplaces where people truly thrive.